welcome to this special edition of I-24 News Defense with an in-depth look at the resumption of the fight between Israel and Hamas. After almost 6 days of a well-kept truce and on the way to some sort of ceasefire agreement in Cairo, 3 rockets fired onto the city of Beersheba on Tuesday afternoon changed everything. Before we discuss, let's take a look back. And we begin our coverage today with a one-on-one with Major General in the Reserves, Amos Yadlin. He began his military career in the Air Force Academy and after becoming a fighter pilot, was chosen to join the elite team that destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor in 1981. Since leaving his role at the head of the IDF intelligence branch, Yadlin has served as the director of the INSS. I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tan Shalev sat down with him for a look at targeted killings, the underground city of Gaza, and gathering intelligence.
General Yadlin, thank you for speaking with us.
My pleasure.
How much of a game changer is the attempted assassination of the head of the military wing of Hamas, Mohammed Deif? How much will it really impact the strategic equation between Israel and Hamas?
The problems today are complicated, and there are many dimensions to any problem. So there is no silver bullet here. It's not like a chess playing that you are removing the king and it's over. But it is very important to target the leadership of the military wing of Hamas, because the military wing of Hamas is the organization that's preventing now a ceasefire, preventing an agreement, and in the long run, they will be negative to any future peace process. And the fact that during the 35 days of this confrontation, they were under the ground, in the bunkers, sending the ordinary terrorists to fight, but protect themselves, is not making justice to anybody. And in a way, by removing the experienced professional terrorists from the scene, you are getting an advantage, but not a strategic winning if you don't do the other dimensions in the right way.
You mentioned Gaza underground. How much does Israel really know about what's going on underground Gaza?
I'll give you the example of the tunnels. Out of the 32 or 33 tunnels that at the end we have destroyed, we didn't know on all of them. We knew about 50% of them. And as you go inside Gaza, you know less and less. But you have to understand the rationale of how they build it. And one of the rationales that we already understood, that they are digging the tunnels under hospitals, under mosques, schools, clinics, UN positions. And it's give you a general assessment of what is going on, what is the rationale behind underground Gaza. And then you collect intelligence with all the measures that you collect intelligence, SIGINT, VISINT, UMINT, and you have a picture. How accurate? Ask my successor.
In the past few weeks, we've heard repeated statements from the Israeli leadership that Hamas has been significantly weakened. And yet, since the ceasefire broke, Israel has been under constant rocket fire. Is this a lack of intelligence, or is the Israeli leadership misleading the public? How exactly do you explain this gap?
I think Hamas was hit hard, very hard. Strategically, there are 2 arms that they have prepared for years to attack Israel, to open hell on Israel, as they are saying. Was the long range, rockets that Iron Dome basically removed as a threat, and the tunnels, the 30, 40 tunnels under the border that we have destroyed. So anybody who is saying that Hamas was beaten hardly, and you have to add to it the 700, 800 ordinary terrorists that were killed in the days of the ground war. So no doubt that Hamas was hit badly. However, it was not hit bad enough to surround it or to even agree to a reasonable ceasefire. And this is the difference between what they are saying about what happened to Hamas, and now you have to evaluate is this is strong enough to change Hamas behavior. It did change Hamas behavior, because if you remember the condition of Hamas in the beginning, that they will release prisoners in the West Bank, that they will go to freely to Jerusalem to pray, that Israel will not fly over Gaza, this is all gone. Or even the fact that they say first agreement, then ceasefire, and because they were hit hardly, it's now first ceasefire and then talking. It is not as strong as I recommended from the very beginning to make them agree to the arrangement of the ceasefire and to the right political move in the long run. Because the military attack is not stand by itself. Don't stand alone. You have to know what do you want to achieve as a political end. And you have to have the 2 or the 3 stages planned in the first place.
Throughout history, only in rare opportunities does a state manage to defeat an armed militia. Can Israel really defeat Hamas?
Many, many times a state was able to defeat militia. If you go to Malaysia in the 50s with the Brits, if you look to the Chechen in Russia today, there are many, many examples, even here. We defeated the terrorists of Hamas and the Al-Aqsa Brigade, the Fatah terrorists in the West Bank. Haven't took us 6 days, haven't took us 6 weeks, not even 6 months, 6 years. But they have defeated both their capabilities and their motivation. So it can be done. It can be done. Of course, if you using only military force, it is less efficient for the long run than if you're using also political tools. And one of the main lesson is, especially for the Brits, is to win the hearts and mind in the long run. We never won the hearts of mind in the Palestinians or in the West Bank, but we taught them a lesson that terror is not serving their goals, and they better use diplomatic tools. It's good for them, and terror is gone from the West Bank. So, if you have the right strategy, and once again we are going now to the beginning of the interview, not a silver bullet. There are many efforts that can be done, that should be done simultaneously, militarily, and then add the right political moves. And we will win.
General Yadlin, thank you very much.
Mohammed Deif has been involved in terrorism for years, and for the last 2 decades, he's been leading the Hamas military wing, the Al-Qassam Brigades. 8 tons of bombs dropped on a house in Gaza on Tuesday night should have killed him. But did they? Here's more.
The terror organization's commanding officials are more than just a legitimate target, but also a prime one. No one is immune.
Amid contradicting reports from Israel and Hamas, the uncertainty surrounding the attempt on senior Hamas militant Mohammed Deif continues. 49-year-old Mohammed Deif al-Masri, also known as Abu Khalid, was born in Khan Yunis, in the south of the Gaza Strip. Israel targeted Deif's life at least 3 times, and in 2002 he came close to death, barely surviving an injury that left him partially paralyzed with speech and movement impairments. The assassination attempt marked the last time Deif was seen in public. He showed signs of life later in the form of recorded messages with his face hidden. Deif was one of the founders of suicide bombers terrorism, the method that transformed Hamas from small groups of knifers and gunmen to one of the two biggest and deadliest terror organizations in the region, alongside Hezbollah. During the first Intifada in the 80s, Deif spent time in Israeli prison. In the 90s, he moved up in the ranks of the organization, planning Nachshon Wachsman's kidnapping as well as other major terror attacks. In 1996, after Yehia Ayash, the engineer, was assassinated by Israel, Deif took his place as commander. One of his last messages to Israel was recorded and transmitted shortly after the disengagement from Gaza.
You used to tell each other, go to Gaza, meaning go to hell. And today you leave Gaza because it is hell. Tomorrow we will make the entire Palestine hell for you.
To this day, Deif is considered a legend and a respectable figure among many who value his struggle. According to Hamas internal sources, there is no greater expert than Deif in terror attack planning. A few hours after the IDF completed its ground offensive in Gaza, Chief of Staff Gantz made a clear threat.
We're not done. The military is prepared for anything. Should future events arise, we will know how to respond.
The coming days will tell if the events in the Sheikh Radwan neighborhood were a game changer in the current conflict between Israel and Hamas, or merely another night strike that will strengthen the legend of Mohammed Deif.
And joining me now in the studio is Mr. Lior Ackerman, a former senior officer in Israel Internal Security Service, the Shin Bet. Mr. Ackerman, thanks very much for being with me today. So I want to begin, before we get to Mohammed Deif, who we just saw in the report, with the events today. The Shin Bet confirming, Hamas confirming the death of 3 top commanders. How big of a blow is this to Hamas? How big of a success for Israel?
Well, first of all, it's a very big intelligence success, of course, and operational success for Israel. It's a very big loss for the Palestinians, for the Hamas, from the point of view of those commanders who had a lot of experience and knowledge, because they were many, many years in the field. But we must understand that it is not, although it will make some hard move or days for the Hamas in the next short period, it will not change the whole picture, because they can and they have the ability to replace those people with others. Maybe they will not have the same knowledge, the same experience, but they do have people that will replace them.
Given they can always be replaced, as you just said, how important, how key is intelligence gathering, this human intelligence that could lead the IDF to strike a commander like this?
Well, it's not only the human intelligence, the intelligence picture that building in order to execute such an operation, built from a lot of things, such as human sources, such as SIGINTs, such as technology, cameras from the air, a lot of things which are working together in real time. And once the object is in the same place, in the right time, in the right place, with the right people, and we do have the operational authority to do it, so we can execute it.
Let's go back for a moment to Mohammed Deif, who we just saw in the report. Earlier in this edition, we heard Major General Amos Yadlin saying if he was indeed killed, it's not that big of a deal. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree. It has mostly a moral effect, his death, although Mohammed Deif has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge. He was very operational. And it will be hard for them to put instead of him another one. One reason is because the second chain of command of them also died. This Abu Shamala and the Raid Attar.
Today, this morning.
Yes, those were the people that were supposed to replace him, but they aren't anymore. So it will be a problem for them, but it's not impossible. They can and they will replace him with someone else. They do have, maybe with less experience, less knowledge, but someone will do it, and the fight will stay on.
Going to a sort of smaller resolution of targeted killing of this kind of operation, after such a massive explosion, we've seen the pictures from Gaza, how do you prove that he's been killed?
Well, the proof is just a secondary things after the operation. Once the operation, we did it, so the indications are coming maybe mostly from the other side, because if he's really dead and most of the time that's what's happened. So we have the indications from the Palestinian side that is that. We have also self-indications from our sources, mostly in most of the cases we know simultaneously from our sources and from Palestinian sources. I think that in this case, maybe the Israeli intelligence don't have really knowledge, really intelligence about what happened in the house and what is destiny, and the Palestinian has an interest to shut it off now.
Going to a sort of a bigger Hamas figure, Khalid Mashal has been targeted in the past many, many years ago. Now in Qatar, should he still be a target for Israel?
I think that any terrorist on the face of earth is a legitimate target. I think.
But is he a wise target?
I don't know if he's wise. It's a political decision. But what I think is that when a leader of state of Israel wants to take a decision about the destiny of Israel, he should first of all consider the interests of Israel before he considers the interests of the United Nations and other interests. So if this organization is led by Khalid Mashal or any other terrorist, so he's a justified target. It's very simple.
We'll see if that comes to fruition at any point here or in Gaza or in Qatar. Mr. Lior Ackerman, thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you.
And thank you, our viewers. This wraps up this edition of I-24 News Defense. For all the latest headlines on Israel and Hamas, and of course from around the world, find us all the time online at i24news.tv. Thanks for watching.